Unveiling the Truth. This story is brought to you by Sunil Karmakar blog. The story was conceived, written and produced by Sunil Karmakar.
Chapter 1: The Thunderstorm of Fate. The rain fell in sheets, blurring the line between sky and ground, as a silver sports car roared down the winding road. The engine's roar was deafening, slicing through the symphony of thunder and splashing rain. Inside, behind the wheel, was a man in his late 20s with chiseled features, dark hair tousled carelessly. His name Malik, a rising legal star known for his intelligence and charm but burdened by a dangerous flaw, recklessness. His eyes, sharp yet clouded by intoxication, glanced sideways as he sped through the relentless storm. Beside him sat Mira Kapoor, a woman whose delicate beauty and expressive eyes reflected mounting fear. Dressed elegantly for what should have been a memorable night, she now clutched the edges of her seat. Her voice trembled as she pleaded, "Ashok, slow down. You've had too much to drink." Ashok's laugh was sharp, tinged with defiance. "Relax, Mira. I've got this." He gripped the wheel, but the blurring of his vision said otherwise. The car skidded on the slick road as they careened around a bend. Ahead, under a swaying streetlight, a lone figure stood at the edge of the road. The young woman, Elena Roy, was tall, her long dark hair cascading over her shoulders. She gripped a black umbrella that provided little protection from the pounding rain. A soft glow of a street lamp illuminated her porcelain skin and wide eyes, glistening with both hope and anxiety as she waited for someone who promised to meet her there. Suddenly, the screech of tires pierced the downpour. Elena's eyes snapped up as headlights blinded her, too late to react. The impact hurled her body like a rag doll, twisting mid-air before landing in a lifeless heap by the roadside. The thud and Myra's shriek shattered the night. "Ashok, stop the car. We have to help her," Mira cried, her nails digging into his arm. Ashok's pulse pounded in his ears, overriding reason. The implications spun wildly in his head, his future, the prestigious high court position he was to begin in days. He slapped Myra's hand away, voice taut with panic. "No. If I'm caught, everything is over. We need to get out of here, now." But Myra's wide, tear-streaked eyes cut through his haze. "Arjun, you can't just leave her there. What if she's alive? She needs help." A moment of silence passed, interrupted only by the rhythmic drumming of rain on the roof. Ashok groaned and opened the car door. Cold rain lashed his face as he approached the crumpled figure lying motionless on the slick road. Elena's eyes fluttered open briefly, filled with agony, before slipping shut again. Blood mixed with rainwater in rivulets around her. Ashok's chest tightened, but survival instincts pushed him back to the car. He forced a neutral expression and told Mira, "She's fine. She's breathing. Someone will find her." The lie slipped out effortlessly. The guilt took root instantly. He drove off, leaving Mira at her home with whispered reassurances that burned in their dishonesty. Hours later, the metallic beast rested in the shadows of Ashok's garage, its fender dented and smeared with proof of his crime. Back on the road, beneath the weeping sky, Elena lay still. The life she had known slipped away, one heartbeat at a time. Chapter 2: The Echo of Promises. The morning sun filtered through the grand floor-to-ceiling windows of Raheja Towers, a monument of power and affluence in the heart of the city. At the top floor, the office of Dev Raheja stood as a testament to old money elegance, adorned with mahogany woodwork, oil paintings of influential ancestors, and a sprawling desk where multi-billion-dollar decisions were made. Dev Raheja, in his early 60s, exuded an aura of authority sharpened over decades. His salt-and-pepper hair was always impeccably styled, and his tailored suits spoke of a man who valued image as much as his vast empire. Today, his sharp, calculating eyes fell on his son as he strode in. Arjun Raheja, the only heir to the Raheja fortune, was the epitome of modern sophistication. At 29, he was tall and broad-shouldered, his features sculpted and his deep-set eyes carrying a mix of determination and mischief. Unlike his father, who had a cold, commanding demeanor, Arjun possessed a charm that drew people to him effortlessly. A brilliant strategist in the boardroom and an athlete outside of it, he balanced discipline with spontaneity. But beneath the confidence lay a streak of rebellion, the shadow of a man determined not to be just another puppet in the corporate world. "Father," Arjun greeted, a hint of formality lacing his voice as he entered the office. Dev set aside the report he was reading, eyes narrowing. "Arjun, to what do I owe this visit? You're not due in until the afternoon briefing." Arjun took a breath, steadying the whirlwind of anticipation. "I have something important to tell you," he said, his tone softening. "I'm in love, and tonight I plan to propose to her." A rare pause hung in the air, Dev's face unmoving. "Love?" he repeated, the word foreign and weightless on his tongue. "And who, pray tell, is this fortunate woman?" Arjun's heart picked up speed. "Her name is Elena Roy. She's intelligent, compassionate, and she makes me feel alive in a way nothing else does. I want you to meet her soon." The lines of Dev's face hardened, eyes sparking with disapproval. "Elena Roy. Roy, as in the teacher's daughter. Are you out of your mind, Arjun? You can't seriously consider this." His voice dropped into an accusatory growl. "Do you understand what's at stake here? You are a Raheja. I have plans for you, plans that involve aligning with the Kohli family." Arjun clenched his jaw, recognizing the name immediately. Sia Kohli, the poised and influential daughter of Minister Rajesh Kohli, had long been paraded as an ideal match, a political and financial alliance that would further consolidate the Raheja empire's power. But Arjun had never seen her as anything more than a connection his father sought. "This isn't about business or power, father. It's about happiness, my happiness," Arjun argued, his voice firm but edged with frustration. Dev stood up abruptly, slamming a fist onto the polished surface of his desk. "Enough. You will end this foolishness now, or you will not have a place in this family." A tense silence enveloped the room, the rift between father and son deepening. Arjun's face betrayed a flicker of hurt before settling into resolve. "Then so be it," he said, turning on his heel and leaving the office without another word. Hours later, Arjun found himself in the soft, golden-lit interior of the Royal Orchid Hotel, a place renowned for hosting the city's most lavish affairs. He walked into the boutique on the ground floor, eyes scanning an array of engagement rings until a glistening diamond set in platinum caught his attention. It was simple yet elegant, with a unique pattern carved along the band. It reminded him of Elena, graceful yet strong. "I'll take this one," he told the jeweler, who nodded with a knowing smile. As preparations continued, Arjun oversaw the final touches to the private dining area he had reserved. The hotel's event team had transformed it with delicate white drapes, an arc of roses, and warm candlelight casting flickering shadows across the room. A live violinist was stationed to play Elena's favorite song as she arrived. With everything ready, Arjun paced, a mixture of excitement and nerves. Minutes turned into an hour, and worry began to gnaw at him. His mind raced with possibilities, and he reached for his phone, dialing Mrs. Roy. "Hello, Auntie. Is Elena there?" "She was supposed to meet me here over an hour ago," he said, trying to mask the anxiety in his voice. There was a pause on the other end, followed by a strained response. "Arjun, she left home hours ago to meet you. We haven't heard from her since." Arjun's heart thudded in his chest. The room, once vibrant and brimming with hope, felt suffocatingly silent as the first seeds of dread planted themselves in his mind. Chapter 3: Echoes of Lost Love. Arjun stood by the window of his high-rise apartment, the city lights casting a warm glow over his tanned features. The memories of Elena flooded back with relentless force. They had shared everything, from childhood laughter to quiet moments under star-filled skies. It was impossible to recall a time when she wasn't part of his world, the girl with an infectious smile who could light up even his darkest days. Elena Roy was more than beautiful, she was a vision of resilience and warmth. Her deep brown eyes carried kindness, and her laugh had a way of making everyone around her join in, no matter the mood. She had a natural grace about her, matched by a fierce intelligence that had earned her a scholarship at the prestigious university they both attended. Arjun and Elena were inseparable from their first day at school, where he defended her against bullies, to university, where they spent long nights studying side by side. Their friendship evolved naturally into love, a bond as steady as the tides yet as exhilarating as a summer storm. Arjun still remembered the moment he realized he was in love. They had been sitting by the lake that edged their town, the water shimmering under the moonlight, and she had leaned her head against his shoulder, sighing contentedly. The world had stilled in that moment, and he knew he wanted nothing more than to keep her by his side forever. Their first kiss had been tender and tentative, under a canopy of jasmine flowers in a quiet corner of their campus. From that moment, they were each other's everything. Even as the years passed, the excitement of stolen kisses, secret rendezvous, and shared dreams never waned. They planned a future together, imagining a small house nestled in a lush, green landscape away from the chaos of the city. Arjun, ever the romantic, had started building that house, each stone a testament to his commitment. But their happiness was tinged with Elena's quiet apprehension. Arjun, she would often say, eyes clouded with worry, what if your father doesn't approve of us? He's never seen me as more than your childhood friend. Arjun would hold her close, brushing her hair back and whispering, I don't care, Elena. It's you and me against the world. Elena's mother, Mrs. Roy, was their staunchest ally, a gentlewoman who had always adored Arjun. She would watch them with a hopeful smile, silently praying for their happiness. Arjun's steadfast supporter in all things was Rohan Mehta, his childhood friend. Rohan was more than just a friend, he was a brother in every way that counted. Shorter than Arjun but muscular and full of life, Rohan's loyalty knew no bounds. His mother, Auntie Nina, had been like a second mother to Arjun after he lost his own at a young age. She often recalled how Arjun would come to her house after school, eyes wide with questions about life and stories from the playground. Auntie Nina had been his anchor, offering him a love that felt like a mother's embrace. Arjun's father, Dev Raheja, had remarried when Arjun was barely 7, and from this marriage came Ananya, his stepsister. Unlike the distant relationship he shared with his father and stepmother, Arjun adored Ananya. She was 10 years younger, with bright eyes and a quick laugh, and they shared a bond strengthened by countless afternoons spent at Auntie Nina's, playing games and telling stories. Rohan loved Ananya like his own sister, and together, the three of them formed an unbreakable trio. The night Elena failed to show up at the hotel, panic had seeped into Arjun's veins. He drove through the rain-slicked streets, eyes straining against the downpour as he searched for her, heart pounding with every unanswered call. When desperation took hold, he drove to the nearest police station. The inspector on duty, Inspector Ravi Sharma, recognized Arjun immediately. The Raheja name carried weight, and so did Arjun's reputation as a respected figure in the city. The inspector listened carefully, eyes narrowing as he heard the worry in Arjun's voice. We'll find her, Mr. Raheja. I'll call all stations and hospitals immediately. Moments later, a call came in, a report about a late-night accident involving a young woman. The air in the room thickened as the inspector spoke into the phone, his expression hardening. A girl matching the description was brought to the city mortuary, he said finally, voice low and grave. She didn't make it. Time slowed for Arjun. The ride to the mortuary was silent, the world outside blurring into streaks of rain and light. Rohan appeared at the station, having been called by Auntie Nina, and joined Arjun, his face pale and drawn with concern. The two men exchanged no words, only a shared understanding of the unimaginable grief ahead. Inside the sterile, cold mortuary, the metallic scent of antiseptic clung to the air. The inspector lifted the sheet, revealing Elena's still, pale face. A sob tore through Arjun, raw and uncontainable, as he fell to his knees, his vision blurring with tears. Every promise, every dream they had shared shattered like glass. Rohan's hand gripped Arjun's shoulder, his own eyes brimming, trying to offer strength when there was none to be found. Arjun's phone buzzed, a cruel reminder of life moving on. With trembling hands, he called Mrs. Roy. Her voice, weak yet hopeful, answered. But as the silence stretched, she sensed the truth. Her strength cracked, and she whispered, "No, not my Elena." The last shred of Arjun's composure broke. He promised Elena's mother, and himself, through the searing pain, "I will find out who did this. I won't rest until they're brought to justice." The inspector's eyes met his, a silent pact formed between them. Arjun's grief solidified into determination. This was not just about justice, it was about keeping the last promise he had made to Elena, a promise forged in love and now burning with vengeance. Chapter 4: Unveiling Truths. The sun rose with a muted glow over the city, casting long shadows that mirrored the weight pressing on Inspector Ravi Sharma's mind. The Raheja name carried influence, but this was not just about a prominent family, this was about justice for a young woman whose life had been cut short in a cruel twist of fate. His team worked tirelessly, scrutinizing every CCTV feed from intersections near the accident site. The city's relentless rain had made footage grainy and obscured, but Inspector Sharma was determined. He knew the stakes, and failure was not an option. Meanwhile, Elena's lifeless body had been returned to her grieving mother, Mrs. Roy. The house, once full of laughter and warmth, now echoed with silence and unbearable loss. Arjun stood in the living room, eyes bloodshot, his hands trembling as he clutched a photograph of Elena smiling, sunlight in her hair and hope in her eyes. The post-mortem report had come back with an unexpected blow. Elena had been carrying his child. A child that would never draw its first breath. A wave of nausea swept over him, and he staggered, memories assaulting him with their poignancy. Arjun sank into the armchair where Elena once curled up beside him, reading aloud with a soft, melodic voice. They had talked for hours about their future, sharing whispered dreams and stolen kisses. The house he was building in the rolling green hills outside the city was meant to be their haven, a home with large windows overlooking fields of wildflowers and a nursery with walls painted in warm yellows and soft greens. It would now stand as a hollow monument to what could have been. Rohan Mehta, Arjun's friend and brother in spirit, arrived shortly after. His face was etched with grief, but it was concern for Arjun that drove him forward. Auntie Nina appeared, her presence radiating the unconditional love that had sustained Arjun since childhood. She embraced him tightly, feeling the tension in his body give way to heart-wrenching sobs. "Beta, we are here," she whispered, her voice breaking, as tears welled in her own eyes. Ananya, Arjun's young stepsister, wrapped her arms around both of them, her small frame shaking as she tried to be strong. "We'll find whoever did this, brother," Ananya said softly, her voice firm despite her trembling lips. The siblings' bond, forged through shared losses and stolen moments of joy, was now a lifeline for Arjun. In the Raheja mansion, Dev Raheja sat in his office, listening to the murmur of voices outside. A calculated glint flickered in his eyes. Elena's death, though tragic, had eliminated an obstacle in his carefully laid plans for Arjun's future. He knew the public would perceive him as sympathetic to his son's loss, but behind closed doors, the pieces on his chessboard shifted with practiced precision. Sia Kohli sat in her room at the Kohli estate, the news of Elena's death leaving her with conflicted emotions. Sia was everything one would expect from the daughter of Minister Rajesh Kohli, poised, elegant and ambitious. Her long, jet-black hair framed a face marked by striking features, a perfect jawline, almond-shaped eyes, and a practiced smile that could charm and command in equal measure. Sia's world revolved around power, and she had grown up believing that her life was destined to intertwine with Arjun's. In her heart, Sia felt a twinge of guilt over the relief that washed through her. She had not wished for Elena's death, but with the path now seemingly clear, a part of her dared to hope. She envisioned a future as the reigning queen of the Raheja Empire, standing by Arjun's side. Time would heal his grief, she reasoned, and when it did, she would be there, ready to claim what she believed was her destiny. Back at the Raheja residence, Rohan sat beside Arjun, silent and steadfast. The anger that simmered in Arjun's eyes worried him. He knew his friend, knew that beneath the facade of controlled calm lay a storm brewing. "We'll get through this, Arjun," Rohan said, voice low and resolute. "But you need to let the police do their job." Arjun's jaw tightened, and he looked up, eyes ablaze. "They took everything from me, Rohan. Elena. Our child. Our future. I won't just stand by and wait." Auntie Nina placed a hand on his, her touch grounding him. "Arjun, let your grief guide you to justice, not ruin. Elena would want you to find peace, not be consumed by anger." But peace was a distant concept, unreachable in the wake of such devastation. The investigation pressed on, led by Inspector Sharma, who knew that every hour was critical. The city's police force combed through hospital records, road surveillance, and eyewitness reports. One such report, made by a roadside vendor, described a silver car speeding away that night. The inspector's brow furrowed as he pieced together the fragments of evidence. A sudden call on the radio made him straighten. "Sir, a match for the description of the car has been found. Registered to Ashok Malik." Inspector Sharma's eyes narrowed. The pieces were starting to come together. Beside him, Arjun's face was pale as realization dawned, someone he knew might be responsible. His grief hardened into a vow as he whispered under his breath, "I will not rest until justice is served." He called Mrs. Roy to share the news of the body's identification. Her voice was shattered, a mother's despair woven into every word. "Find them, Arjun. For Elena." A heavy silence followed, broken only by Arjun's promise, "I will."